Hey everybody, Alex here, healthhacksreviewed.com. This video today is on superpulsing lasers, and these are for the photomedicine, photobiomodulation product category. I have to do another video on superpulsing lasers because, my God, they seem to be confusing practitioners everywhere, these various companies, and it really has to stop. I would say probably at this point, currently in the industry, there's about four pretty well-known brands that sell superpulsing lasers. And even K-Laser is actually starting to get into the mix now, talking about superpulsing lasers. It's just too profitable for them not to talk about it. But if you've seen some of my other videos, I generally do not recommend superpulsing lasers. These companies are getting away with pricing up devices that are quite cheap to manufacture, since they are very low power, usually over-the-counter cleared devices. It means you can leave a child, it's safe in the hands of a child. Essentially, is what over-the-counter cleared means if it's a laser. Secondly, technically it's not really a laser. A lot of these superpulsing devices are using LEDs or SLDs, which is not a laser. It's a light-emitting diode. Okay, so that in and of itself is a misrepresentation. So lo and behold, last year, towards the end of the year, in the Journal of Photomedicine and Laser Surgery, pretty credible journal where they have a lot of educational topics about different studies for the photobiomodulation industry, we have an article, actually a study, a piece here on the comparison of light penetration between continuous wave, 810, and superpulse, 904. 904 is a great one to have used for the study just because there are several different superpulsing lasers that are using a diode in that nanometer wavelength. Okay? And actually even K-Laser actually uses a diode right around there. I think it's 905 or something like that. Either way, what we see here in this study, and I'll just kind of go into it really briefly, is they're using rats essentially, and what they did was they put a detector which measures the fluence rate, okay, which has to do with joules of energy, the amount of photons received, and they put that underneath the skin. And then they took measurements at a 4, 5, 10, 15, and 20-minute marks, okay, for both the devices in order to basically measure the fluence rate, and basically demonstrated that if the superpulsing 904 wavelength laser was turned on for a minimum of 15 minutes. So in other words, they let it run for 15 minutes to warm up. There was no increase in light penetration over time. So with appropriate warm-up periods, both lasers had stable output powers. Okay, so if you don't know that, lasers take a little bit to warm up, and then they basically can measure a stable output. And so why they were specifically stating this is because there had been a few other studies in the past with superpulsing lasers performed by some of these superpulsing companies, which of course is a little biased, obviously, that they tested an increase in light penetration. But that is because that increase was occurring as the laser was warming up, which was increasing the fluency rate. So that was definitely a little skewed. So this one, they got to the point where the lasers were both stabilized, and then they took the rate measurements. Okay. And so here we already have some numbers. The fluence rate through muscle and skin, 7.42% at the 810 and 4.01 at 904. So 810 is a little bit more. And through the skin, and that was through the muscle. Through the skin, 24.63, 810, and 19.94, 904. Okay. So already with that part of the data, already proved that the transmission of 810 wavelength light through muscle and skin alone is greater than the transmission of a superpulsing 904 nanometer wavelength. So it had, and then here's our little conclusion. It had been previously reported that superpulsing 904 nanometer wavelength light increased depth of penetration over time due to photobleaching. Based on our data, the observed increase in light penetration over time was due to an insufficient warm-up period of the superpulsing lasers. So they got a little tricky in the other studies. and in order to create certain results that gave a superpulsing laser the appearance of basically having greater depth of penetration than a continuous wave laser. So it's a great little study, goes on. I'll be happy to email it to anybody that contacts me. You can either send me a message right through my YouTube channel, go to healthhacksreviewed.com, and you can take a look. It's a great study, has a ton of references here. This is just kind of another nail in the coffin is what I see on superpulsing lasers. And you have to ask yourself, if you are evaluating a superpulsed laser, here's some very common sense questions to ask the laser companies selling those devices, because you normally find them making a lot of unsubstantiated claims in order to justify such a high price tag, as well as sell the device and say that it's superior than some other class 4 continuous wave lasers. So just simply ask the company, how do you compress a laser beam to be superpulsed? That's it, because that's basically what these different companies claim. Ask them how, and don't just take their explanation. Ask them, can you show me some documentation, some technical documentation on how? Not just tell me some fancy answer. All right, how do you measure a beam that is 1/billionth of a second? Right? Think about that. It's real common sense. Maybe you don't realize that, but we actually don't have any way of measuring anything currently that is at that speed. It doesn't exist. There's no way to measure that. So, and all these different devices usually throw out this term. It sounds pretty impressive. They're pulsing at 1/billionth of a second, super pulsing. How do you measure it? I have to laugh. Just ask that question and see how they respond. And then, based on if they do respond, just say, hey, okay, well, could you prove that? Could you tell me how that's done? Oops, lost a question there. All right. So the third question, how do you measure the deep penetration? Because they always claim that with superpulsing devices, that is supposedly deeper than a class 4 continuous wave laser. How do they measure it? Yet again, so it comes down to, if you're going to make great claims about these superpulsing devices or the value of superpulsing, let's just see the evidence. Let's see the proof. The fact of the matter is these three simple questions, and believe me, we could ask a lot more questions than this, but just these three basic ones here, nobody's going to be able to answer these. Okay? And without answering these just basic questions, how could you move forward when basically all the claims are unsubstantiated? And remember that you're trying to purchase a device based off claims that are true. I mean, this is just basic discernment and how you buy a product at the end of the day, as a smart buyer. So anyways, that's it for the video. Not too much else to say. If you have any questions about what kind of laser to get for yourself, your practice, or home use, I'm a dealer for a few different brands and help guide practitioners as well as home users in what are the best brands for them. I treat everybody uniquely and differently and consult for free. So reach out anytime on my website, healthhacksreviewed.com. Thanks for listening. This is Alex Terrace signing off.